I sit in my parents' living room surrounded by medical documents scattered across the coffee table, like fallen leaves. My mother's words hang in the air, sharp and heavy. Edward needs a kidney transplant. The doctors say it's urgent. Mom's voice cracks as she shuffles through papers with the hospital letterhead. The procedure has to be done in Guatemala. Their specialists have a revolutionary approach for cases like his. My brother slumps in the recliner across from me, his face ashen. He hasn't said much since I arrived, just occasional nods. As Mom explains his supposed kidney failure, I pick up one of the documents, scanning for details. Something feels off. The letterhead looks slightly blurry, and the doctor's credentials don't match any. I've researched in my preliminary Google searches. The medical terminology seems right, but the spacing between paragraphs varies. Oddly, the dialysis isn't working anymore. Mom continues dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. His body is rejecting the treatment the doctor says without a family donor within the next month. She doesn't finish the sentence, but the implication hangs between us like a storm cloud. I've looked into travel arrangements, she adds, pulling out another folder we'd need to leave in 3 weeks. The coordinator says everything can be arranged quickly, since it's an emergency situation. My chest tightens as if someone is squeezing my ribs together. My hands tremble slightly as I set down the paper. I don't understand why this has to be done in Guatemala. I say carefully. Johns Hopkins is only 2 hours away. They have one of the best transplant centers in the country. Mom waves her hand, dismissively. American doctors are too conservative. They want to keep him on dialysis until he wastes away. This clinic has cutting-edge treatments. Only doctors understand late-stage kidney disease. Greta, Edward needs you. I glance at my brother. His skin doesn't have the grayish tint I've read about in kidney patients. For someone supposedly on dialysis 3 times a week, he looks remarkably normal, just thinner and more tired than usual. A cold sweat breaks out across my forehead. My heart pounds against my ribs as if trying to escape. I try to control my breathing, but it comes in shallow bursts. I'll need time to think about this. I manage to say Edward finally speaks, his voice surprisingly strong. For someone supposedly at death's door, there isn't much time to think, sis. They need an answer. This week the walls seem to close in around me. I grab my purse and stand studying myself against the arm of the sofa. I'll call you tomorrow, I promise, already moving toward the door. I drive home in silence, mind racing with memories. Edward asking to borrow $20 when we were teenagers, promising to pay me back by Friday, then $50 the next week, then $100 for an emergency, money that never returned. I remember us building forts in the backyard when we were kids, riding bikes to the corner store for popsicles on summer afternoons. The way he taught me to throw a baseball when I was 7. Then came the casino trips with his friends. The late-night calls asking me to cover his rent. Just this once, the time he borrowed my credit card and maxed it out. Mom always defended him. He's going through a rough patch. Family helps family. I grip the steering wheel tighter. Something isn't adding up here. The diagnosis papers, the overseas clinic, the rushed timeline. My accountant's mind, trained to spot inconsistencies in numbers, is firing warning signals. When I reach my apartment, I feel like I can breathe again. Everything here is orderly. Simple furniture, clean countertops, bookshelves arranged by subject and author. Nothing like the chaotic stacks of paper and unwashed dishes at my parents' house. I kick off my shoes and pour a glass of water, standing by the window as dusk settles over the city. What if Edward really is sick? Could I live with myself if something happened to him because I refused? But what if he isn't? What if this is another scheme, bigger and more dangerous than anything? Before I pick up my phone and call my mother, I need time to research kidney donation before I commit to anything I tell her, trying to keep my voice steady. Her response is immediate and sharp. Every day you delay could cost Edward his life. Do you want that on your conscience? I close my eyes, feeling the familiar weight of guilt settling on my shoulders. I'll consider the donation, but I want to see his official medical records first. Not copies, the originals. And I want to speak to his doctor directly. You always were selfish, she says, her voice suddenly cold after everything we've done for you. Edward needs this. Greta, he's your brother. After we hang up, I stand at my window watching the sunset, paint the sky in shades of orange and purple. For the first time, I allow myself to acknowledge the truth. I've been avoiding my health. My financial security, my very body are at risk, and I'm standing alone against the 2 people who should protect me most. I watch a flock of birds wheeling against the darkening sky, moving as one unit before settling into a nearby tree. I need to be certain. I whisper to myself, feeling the first stirrings of resolve the next morning at Pearson Financial. I spot Rachel in the office kitchen. We've worked together for 3 years, sharing lunch breaks and occasional happy hours. She notices my expression immediately. "What's wrong?" "You look like you haven't slept." I hesitate. Then the words tumble out. "My brother needs a kidney transplant. At least that's what my parents say." Rachel's eyes widen. "That's serious. What hospital is he at?" "That's just it," I say, lowering my voice. "They want me to fly to Guatemala for the surgery. Something about specialized treatment not available. Here." Rachel sets down her coffee mug. "That doesn't sound right. My cousin donated a kidney last year to her husband. There's a whole process: psychological evaluation, tissue matching, medical board approval. They showed me some documentation, but it felt off somehow. If something feels off, you should check," Rachel says firmly. "This isn't like lending someone money. Greta, this is your body, too." Her words land like stones in still water, creating ripples of clarity. For the first time since yesterday, I feel less alone. "What would you do?" I ask. Verify everything she says without hesitation. If they're telling the truth, evidence will support it. If not, she doesn't finish the sentence, but she doesn't need to. As I walk back to my desk, I make a quiet decision. I need to learn more about kidney disease a lot more. On Thursday, I dumped the folder of Edward's medical documents onto my dining table and fanned them out like a hand of cards. My apartment feels too small. The walls pressing closer with each disturbing realization for 3 days. Since the last family meeting, I've been researching kidney disease transplant procedures and Guatemalan medical facilities between work shifts. None of it adds up. The letterhead on Dr. Ernesto Montoya's documents bears pixelated edges when examined closely. His credentials list membership in the Guatemalan Association of Nephrology Specialists, an organization that doesn't exist according to my Google searches Hospital Duran returns. 0 results online. Not a website review or mention anywhere I pull up my online banking records. Searching for patterns. Last year, Mom asked me to help with Edward's emergency appendectomy. $2,000 wired directly to her account 6 months before that. Unexpected complications from routine surgery required another $1,500. Each time I transferred the money without question, my finger trembles as I scroll through my transaction history. Each major withdrawal lines up perfectly with frantic calls from my mother about Edward's health crises. My phone buzzes with a text from Mom. "Don't forget to submit your vacation request at work." Surgery date confirmed for the 15th of October. A cold wave washes through my chest. I've become a walking ATM for my brother's problems, and now they want a kidney too. I dial the customer service number for our family's health insurance provider and idea forming. "Hello, this is Greta Reynolds. I'm calling about my brother Edward Reynolds. I need information about his recent dialysis treatments." I provide Edward's policy number from the copy of his insurance card Mom gave me years ago when I started helping with his medical bills. "Let me check those records for you." The representative's keyboard clicks in the background. "Ms. Reynolds, I'm not showing any dialysis treatments for Edward in our system. The last claim we processed was for a routine physical in February." My breath catches. "What about kidney specialist visits or blood work related to kidney function?" "Nothing like that is showing in our records, ma'am." After hanging up, I sit perfectly still at my kitchen table staring at the wall. The magnitude of their deception expands before me, like a vast, dark ocean. This isn't a single lie, but years of systematic manipulation. With shaking hands, I open my email archive and search for messages from my mother. Keywords like Edward and emergency and hospital fill my screen with years of panicked requests. One email from 6 months ago catches my eye. Not from Mom to me, but from Mom to Edward, where I was accidentally copied. Greta always comes through. "Just tell her it's for medical bills." Again, she never asks too many questions. I read it 3 times, the words burning into my retinas. They've been discussing me like I'm a resource to be mined, not a daughter or sister. I start a new spreadsheet meticulously documenting every medical emergency against my bank transfers, and Edward's known gambling activity from his social media posts. The pattern emerges with sickening clarity. His casino visits and poker tournaments consistently proceed. Mom's urgent calls for help by just days, for hours. I build my case-gathering screenshots, bank statements, and medical inconsistencies. The Edward, I thought I knew my protective older brother who taught me to ride a bike and defended me from playground bullies, dissolves with each new piece of evidence in his place. Stands a stranger who sees me as nothing more than a solution to his financial problems. Stumble across a Facebook message thread where Edward mentions owing someone named Marco $75,000 with a 2-month deadline that ends. I check the calendar 3 weeks from now. The threatening tone in Marco's responses makes my stomach clench. You better have my money, Eddie. No more extensions. You know what happens next. The realization hits me like a physical blow. They're not just liars. They're desperate, and desperate people are dangerous. My phone rings again. Mom's number flashes on the screen. Greta, the coordinator needs your passport information and blood type today. They have another patient who could take the surgery slot if we can't confirm one. I'll get that to you tomorrow. I say, my voice surprisingly steady, despite the hurricane inside me. This can't wait. Edward's condition is deteriorating rapidly. I glance at Edward's Instagram story posted an hour ago. A selfie at a sports bar, beer in hand, captioned pre-game rituals with the boys. His complexion healthy, his smile relaxed. I need to find my passport first. It's in storage. Mom's exasperated sigh cuts through the phone. You've always been so disorganized with important documents. I'll have Edward swing by tomorrow to help you look. The threat lurks beneath her helpful tone. They're not letting me slip away. After hanging up, I pack my evidence into a folder, suddenly aware of how vulnerable I am. This isn't just about money anymore. They're planning to sell my kidney to pay off Edward's debts. The next morning at work, I spot Rachel in the break room and motion her over. I found out what's really going on with my brother, I whisper, showing her the fake medical documents. Rachel's eyes widen as I explain. Greta, this is criminal. They're trying to traffic your organs. I know I say the reality of it's still shocking even as I speak the words, but I don't know what to do. They're my family. Rachel sets down her coffee mug with purpose. My cousin's friend is a nephrologist at Memorial Hospital, Dr. Patricia Vance. She can verify these documents are fake. Give you official confirmation. For the first time in days, I feel a glimmer of hope. Can you connect us? Rachel nods, already pulling out her phone. And Greta, my spare bedroom is yours if you need somewhere safe to stay. Family doesn't do this to family. An hour later, I have an appointment with Dr. Vance for tomorrow morning and a growing file of evidence. I'm no longer merely suspicious. I'm preparing for battle as I organize my documents. A text arrives from Edward. Found a great airfare deal. Need to book today. Meeting you at your place at 6 to get passport and finish paperwork. I study my brother's message, seeing it for what it truly is. Not concern, but desperation. Not love, but exploitation. The facade has crumbled, revealing the truth beneath. I need to document everything and understand exactly what they're planning, I muttered to myself as I create a new folder on my laptop labeled Evidence. For the first time since this nightmare began, I feel something beyond fear and betrayal, a cool, clear sense of purpose. They've underestimated me, assumed my compliance counted on my love to blind me. But numbers don't lie, and numbers are what I do best that week. I arrive at my parents' house early Sunday afternoon, a tightness in my chest that has nothing to do with the casserole dish I'm carrying. Mom greets me at the door, her smile too bright, her hug too quick. You brought food. How thoughtful. She takes the dish from my hands. Edward's been asking when you'd visit again. I follow her into the kitchen, watching as she sets the table for 3. The familiar scent of her lemon furniture, Polish mingles with something sharper. Anxiety, perhaps, or guilt. I borrowed your tablet last time I was here, I say, placing my purse on the counter. Left mine at the office. Need to check a few work emails before dinner if that's okay. Of course, dear, it's charging in my bedroom. Once alone in her room, I move quickly. The iPad unlocks with her predictable password. My birthday mom has never been security conscious. I open her email app, heart hammering against my ribs as I scan for anything related to Edward's treatment. 3rd email down. Repayment schedule for procedure. I tap it open. Mrs. Winters, we must receive initial payment before scheduling kidney procurement. The remaining balance will be due immediately following successful extraction and transplant. Our team in Guatemala requires confirmation within 14 days. My stomach lurches. Procurement extraction. This isn't medical terminology, it's transaction language. I photograph the screen with my phone, then open the attached document. It's a contract draft with poorly formatted letterhead. My eyes catch on specific phrases. Payment of $75,000 upon successful kidney extraction. Donor liability waiver. No recourse after procedure. No recourse after procedure, no recourse. The donor is me, the kidney is mine. The payment matches exactly what Edward owes his gambling creditors. I scroll through more emails documenting everything. A message from Mom to someone named Coordinator Martinez stops my breath. Greta is dutiful. Just tell her Edward will die and she'll sign whatever we need. My name in my mother's mouth. Not as her daughter, but as a solution to Edward's problems. My body, not as something I inhabit, but as currency to pay my brother's debts. I check her banking app next. The transfers to this coordinator match the exact amounts Edward has lost at casinos over the past 6 months. Not medical retainers, not treatment costs, gambling debts. No bravado for the first time since this nightmare began. A strange calm settles over me. The anxiety that's been clawing at my chest transforms into something harder, sharper certainty. I hear Edward's voice from the living room. Is Sarah here yet? I'm starving. I quickly close the apps, ensuring everything looks untouched, and slip my phone into my pocket. The evidence safely captured. I return to the kitchen, the casserole dish, now warming in the oven. Sorry about that. I say work never stops. Edward sits at the table. Beer can already half empty beside his plate. His skin has a healthy glow. Nothing like the gray pallor Mom described. He's wearing a new shirt, an expensive watch, gleaming on his wrist for someone supposedly at death's door. He's looking remarkably robust. I set my casserole on the table. Major favorite Edward, extra salt, just the way you like it. Mom freezes fork midway to her mouth. Greta, you know Edward can't have salt with his condition. Can't he? I serve myself watching as Edward takes a hefty portion of the salty dish. Funny. I've been researching kidney disease patients on dialysis. Follow strict diets, no alcohol, limited salt, restricted fluids. Edward takes a long swig of beer before answering. My case is different. The Guatemalan doctors have me on special medications. What medications? You wouldn't understand the names. He shovels food into his mouth. Try me. I've been studying kidney disease protocols all week. Mom interjects. Greta, please. This isn't dinner conversation. When's your next dialysis appointment? Edward? I ask. Ignoring her, he pauses. Tuesday. Tuesday? Where that clinic on Jefferson Street was closed for construction last month. Which dialysis center specifically? Edward slams his fork down. What is this, an interrogation? I'm sick. Greta, I need your help, not your questions. That's interesting, I say, setting down my glass because someone with end-stage kidney failure wouldn't eat like this. Wouldn't drink alcohol. Would know their medication names and dialysis schedule by heart. Mom's face drains of color. Edward's flushes red. You always were too nosy for your own good. He snarls, and you always were a terrible liar. I reply, my voice steadier than I feel. I know what you're planning, and it stops. Now. Mom reaches for my hand. I pull away. Edward will die without your help. Her voice rises, trembling with desperation. Edward isn't dying. I say he's in debt, and you are willing to sell my kidney to pay for his gambling. Edward stands so abruptly, his chair topples backward. You don't understand what I'm facing. These people will kill me if I don't pay. So your solution was to risk my life instead. The calm in my voice surprises. Even me, Mom starts crying. The familiar performance that always worked before, where family, Greta family, helps family. Family doesn't traffic family organs. I say, standing, this conversation is over. So is your scheme. Edward moves toward me. His face contorted. You can't just walk away from this. I already have, I tell him. And if either of you contacts me again about this, the police will be my next call. I drive straight to Memorial Hospital, hands trembling slightly on the steering wheel. Dr. Vance meets me in the cafeteria, her white coat pristine against the institutional green walls. I brought everything I say, pulling out my phone and the copies of documents I'd gathered, all the emails, the contract draft, the fake medical records. She examines them carefully. Her expression growing, more troubled with each swipe of the screen. Finally, she looks up, eyes serious behind rectangular frames. These documents are completely fabricated. She says this isn't kidney disease. The terminology is wrong. The treatment protocol is nonsensical. And this contract, she shakes her head. This is attempted organ trafficking. Plain and simple. Rachel arrives sliding into the seat beside me with a comforting hand on my shoulder. What did they say when you confronted them? Edward exploded. Mom cried. The usual tactics, just higher stakes. You were right to question them, Rachel says firmly. This is criminal. Dr. Vance nods. I can document everything. Officially, this kind of scheme is more common than people realize. Unfortunately, a weight lifts from my chest vindication after days of doubt. I need to stop them completely. I say the words feeling like a promise to myself. They're desperate enough to try something else. We'll help you, Dr. Vance says. You're not alone in this anymore. Looking at these two women, one I've known for years, one I've just met, I believe her for the first time since opening that first suspicious medical document. I feel something unexpected. Strength. I am not a solution to my brother's problems. I am not a spare part for harvesting. I am a whole person, and I will remain that way. 2 days later, I step into the police station, clutching my leather portfolio against my chest like armor. The familiar scent of industrial cleaner and stale coffee fills my nostrils as Detective Cooper waves me toward a small conference room. "Ms. Reynolds," he says, extending his hand. "Thank you for coming in today." Detective Cooper is younger than I expected. Maybe early 40s with salt and pepper, hair and eyes that miss nothing. He pulls out a chair for me at a table scattered with manila folders. "I've reviewed everything you sent over," he says, tapping a thick folder. "The falsified medical documents, the email exchanges, the financial records. This is textbook organ trafficking." The words hang in the air between us. Organ trafficking, not family emergency, not brotherly. Need a federal crime with my kidney as the commodity. What happens now? I ask, my voice steadier than I expect. Detective Cooper leans forward. "We build a case. Your brother and mother won't just face fraud charges. This is human trafficking conspiracy, attempted bodily harm." I let that sink in. "My mother and brother, federal prison, I need to warn you," he continues. "This will get worse before it gets better. They'll escalate their pressure tactics when they sense you pulling away." I open my portfolio and slide out a legal pad filled with meticulous notes. I've documented every conversation since Edward's supposed diagnosis. Phone calls, text messages, emails. Detective Cooper's eyebrows lift slightly. "Most people in your situation are too emotional to think this clearly." "I'm an accountant," I reply. "Simply documentation is what I do." He nods, then pulls out a digital recorder from now on record every interaction. We need them to incriminate themselves directly. "What about the coordinator? The person in Guatemala?" "We're working with the FBI's human trafficking unit to identify them. These networks typically target multiple victims simultaneously. I hadn't considered that before that. I might be just one of many." The thought sends a chill through me for now. Detective Cooper says, "Play along cautiously. Express concerns about the procedure, but don't reveal what you know. We need to document the full scope of their plan." I straighten in my chair. "I can do that." "Reynolds." Detective Cooper's voice softens slightly. "Most people want immediate confrontation, the emotional satisfaction of exposing family members who've betrayed them. But real victory here means legal consequences. That requires patience. I think about the years of emergencies, and just this once request that drained my savings. The calculated manipulation disguised as family need. I'm done with emotional reactions. I tell him I want them stopped. For the next hour, we map out a strategy. I'll maintain limited contact expressing health concerns about the surgery while gathering evidence of their intentions. Detective Cooper shows me how to activate the recording function on my phone, inconspicuously, and explains exactly what kind of statements would strengthen the case. Back at my apartment, I created a detailed timeline on my laptop. Every financial transaction, every suspicious medical claim, every manipulation tactic cataloged by date. The spreadsheet grows longer, each entry. Another betrayal quantified into data points. Rachel calls to check on me. "How did it go with the detective?" she asks. He's taking it seriously. "We're building a case." "Good," she says firmly. "I've been going through those bank statements you showed me. There's a pattern in the wire transfers that might help trace where the money's actually going." I feel a surge of gratitude. "You don't have to do this. What are friends for if not helping stop illegal organ harvesting schemes?" Her joke breaks the tension, making me laugh despite everything. Later that evening, Dr. Vance emails me her official analysis of Edward's falsified medical documents. Her letterhead from Memorial Hospital stands in stark contrast to the blurry forgeries. My mother presented the medical terminology as precise, her conclusion damning no evidence of kidney disease or medical necessity for transplant. I add it to my growing file of evidence. My phone buzzes with a text from my mother. "The coordinator needs your blood type information by tomorrow. Call me." I stare at the message, understanding now that coordinator means organ, broker. My fingers hover over the keys as I compose a response that reveals nothing while buying time. "I'll call tomorrow. Working late tonight." I set my phone down and look at the wall of evidence, taking shape in my living room. Financial records, medical documents, recorded conversations, Detective Cooper's card with his direct line for the first time since this nightmare began. I feel something beyond fear or betrayal. A cool clarity settles over me. They've spent years seeing me as nothing but a resource to exploit. Now I'm becoming something. They never anticipated a threat. My phone buzzes again. Mother Edward's condition is worsening. We can't delay deaths. Another lie, another pressure tactic. I close my eyes and visualize the case building piece by methodical piece. Not just my protection, but consequences. Justice. The path ahead is clear. On Thursday that week, after gathering more evidence, I arranged the documents in 3 precise stacks on Detective Cooper's desk. The police station hums with activity around us, but in this small interview room, our focus remains absolute. Everything's here. I say, tapping the first folder, bank statements showing transfers that coincide with Edward's gambling losses, emails between my mother and the so-called coordinator, the falsified medical documents. Detective Cooper nods, his weathered face serious as he reviews the evidence at 52. He has the steady gaze of someone who's seen every kind of family betrayal imaginable. Dr. Vance's statement is comprehensive, he says, examining the medical report. Her documentation of the fraudulent kidney disease diagnosis will hold up in court. Is it enough? I ask the question that's been gnawing at me for days, more than enough for arrest warrants. He closes the folder with deliberate care. The FBI Human Trafficking Unit is ready to coordinate with us. They've seen this pattern before. Desperate families selling organs of unwitting relatives. I exhale slowly, my shoulds dropping slightly. When will you move on this? We need 48 more hours to finalize paperwork and coordinate with federal authorities. He looks directly at me. Can you maintain the facade? Until then, I nod, thinking of the acting I've done for the past 2 weeks, pretending to research kidney donation while secretly building this case. I've been playing along this far. What's 2 more days? Cooper's phone vibrates. He checks the message, his expression unchanging. The prosecutor wants to meet tomorrow morning. Your evidence is creating a solid case. I gather my purse, mentally reviewing my next steps. Dr. Vance had been adamant yesterday. You've built an ironclad case. They can't escape this. Just maintain normal contact. Cooper advises as I stand to leave. Don't give them any reason to suspect. As I drive home, my mind calculates timelines and contingencies. The strategic positioning is almost complete. Legal documentation, prepared medical evidence, secured law enforcement engaged. No victories yet. Just careful preparation for the intervention that will end this permanently. My phone rings through the car. Speakers. Mom's name flashes on the dashboard display. I take a deep breath before answering. Greta, we need to talk about the travel arrangements, she says without preamble. The coordinator called this morning. I'm driving, Mom. Can this wait until I get home? No, she says sharply. We've purchased the tickets one way to Guatemala City, leaving Sunday morning. My hands tighten on the steering wheel. Sunday 3 days away earlier than the timeline. Detective Cooper outlined one way. I keep my voice neutral despite the alarm bells ringing in my head. The return date depends on your recovery. Her voice softens artificially. Edward received another call from his creditors. They're threatening violence if payment is delayed again. My stomach clenches. This isn't just about my kidney anymore. They might force me onto that plane. We need your passport tomorrow for visa processing, she continues. I'll stop by your apartment. After work, after we disconnect, I pull into a grocery store parking lot, hands trembling as I call Detective Cooper. They've accelerated the timeline. I tell him, voice low. They've already purchased one-way tickets for Sunday morning. This changes things. He says, professional, calm, masking urgency. Come back to the station. Now we need to adapt our strategy. 40 minutes later, I sit across from Cooper and Dr. Vance in the same interview room. The energy has shifted. What was methodical preparation has become urgent action. We can't wait 48 hours, Cooper says, typing rapidly on his laptop. I'm expediting the warrants for tonight. Dr. Vance places a hand on my arm. Are you all right? This must be overwhelming. I'm fine. The words come automatically, but I realize they're true. The initial shock of betrayal has transformed into strategic focus. What do we do about tomorrow? My mother wants my passport. Cooper looks up from his computer. We'll have everything in place by morning when she arrives for your passport. We'll be ready to intervene. The judge has already signed off on the emergency restraining orders. He continues. We have everything we need. It's time to end this. Dr. Vance nods quiet confidence in her expression. You've done everything right, Greta. Tomorrow this nightmare ends. As I drive home in the fading evening light, I realize how much I've changed since that first day in my parents' living room. The panicked daughter has been replaced by someone calmer, more strategic. The frightened woman who once fled from confrontation now moves deliberately toward it, backed by evidence and allies. My phone buzzes with a text from Rachel. "How did it go?" With Cooper, I type back. "They're coming for my passport tomorrow. Police will be ready for the first time in weeks." I feel a sense of control. The preparation is complete. The authorities are positioned. By this time tomorrow, my family will face the consequences of their betrayal. The final confrontation approaches, and I am ready the next day. I jolt at the sound of aggressive knocking on my apartment door. It's nearly 8 in the evening, and I'm not expecting visitors peering through the peephole. My stomach plummets. Edward and Mom stand in the hallway, their faces tight with urgency. When I open the door, they push past me without waiting for an invitation. "We need your passport now." Edward's voice sounds different, harder, more desperate than I've ever heard before. Mom drops her oversized purse on my coffee table, sending several magazines cascading to the floor. The coordinator called again. "He needs the final payment today, or he'll give the surgery slot to someone else." I back away slightly, maintaining distance. "I thought we had until Sunday." Edward paces my living room, running his hands through his disheveled hair. "Things changed. The doctor can only do it tomorrow. We need to be on a plane tonight." "Tonight, you said Sunday." Over the phone, my voice rises despite my effort to stay calm. "That's impossible. I have work appointments. Your brother will die if we don't do this." Now Mom's voice slices through the air. "Is your job more important than Edward's life?" Edward stops pacing and steps toward me 6 inches taller. He towers over me in a way that suddenly feels threatening. "My creditors gave me 24 hours. 24 hours, Greta, or there will be consequences." His fingers flex at his sides. Serious consequences. A chill runs through me. This isn't just about the fake kidney disease anymore. We're not leaving without your passport and signature on these consent forms. He pulls wrinkled papers from his back pocket one way or another. "You're coming with us tonight." My mom nods firmly after everything we've done for you growing up. All the sacrifices, the dance lessons, the college tuition. This is the one time Edward truly needs you. I notice her fingers trembling as she unzips her purse. Pulling out airline tickets, the flight leaves at midnight. We need to be at the airport in 3 hours. Edward moves closer, blocking the path to my front door. "Where's your passport?" "Get it now, Anna." My heart hammers against my ribs. The practiced words from all my conversations with Detective Cooper suddenly evaporate. Edward has never been physically intimidating before, but something in his eyes now tells me he's past reasoning. "Okay," I say, raising my hand slightly. "Let me get it from my safe. It's in the bedroom closet." Mom exhales with visible relief. "Good girl." I knew you'd come through as I walk toward my bedroom. Edward follows a few steps behind. "Hurry up, we don't have all night." Inside my bedroom, I leave the door open, closing. It would only escalate his suspicion. I can hear Mom on the phone in the living room speaking in hushed tones. "Yes, we have her. Getting the passport now." "Yes, she's cooperating. We'll meet you at the terminal as planned." With shaking fingers, I open my closet and crouch beside the small safe, tucked in the corner. Edward hovers in the doorway, watching my every move as I pretend to work the combination. I pull my phone from my pocket with my other hand. I type our predetermined emergency code to Detective Cooper Red Kidney. "Now what's taking so long?" Edward demands, stepping into the bedroom. I slip the phone back into my pocket. "The combination is sticking. Give me a minute." "We don't have a minute." He kicks my laundry hamper, sending it crashing against the wall from the living room. Mom calls out. "The coordinator says we need to wire the first half of the payment before we board." "Did you get her passport yet?" "Working on it." Edward shouts back, his voice tight with frustration. I stand slowly, turning to face my brother. "So, where exactly are we flying to?" "You never actually said, what does it matter?" "Some clinic in Guatemala. They have all the paperwork ready. And this coordinator, he's meeting us there." Edward's eyes narrow. Why all the questions suddenly just get the passport? "I'm trying to understand the plan," I say, working to keep my voice steady. "If I'm giving up a kidney, I think I deserve to know the details." Mom appears in the doorway, her phone still clutched in her hand. "The driver will be here in 30 minutes. We need to be packed and ready." "Driver?" I ask. "What driver?" "The coordinator arranged everything," she says impatiently. "Hurry up with that passport." "Greta." I glance at my phone. No response from Cooper yet. I need to stall longer. "What about post-operative care?" I ask who's going to take care of me after surgery. Edward's patient snaps. He grabs my arm, fingers digging into my skin. There's no time for this. Where's the damn passport? I wrench away from him, my pulse racing. I will never allow you to risk my life and sell my kidney. The words hang in the air like smoke. Mom freezes her face, draining of color. What are you talking about? She whispers, but her eyes betray her. I've seen the emails to the coordinator. I know about Edward's gambling debts. I know this has nothing to do with kidney disease. My voice grows stronger with each word. The police have been notified. They know everything. Edward lunges toward me with a speed I didn't expect. I backpedal until I hit the wall, ducking as his fist punches the dry wall beside my head, you stupid, interfering his face. Contorts with rage. We're leaving now, with or without your cooperation. Mom rushes into the bedroom, frantically gathering items from my dresser. Get her purse, her ID. We'll explain everything on the plane. Greta, you don't understand what's at stake. Edward grabs my wrist, trying to drag me toward the door. I resist, planting my feet and twisting away. Let go of me. I shout louder than I intended, hoping my neighbors might hear. You've always been selfish. He hisses. One kidney. That's all we needed. Do you know what these people will do to me if I don't pay? In the distance, I hear the faint wail of sirens. Relief floods through me as Edward's grip tightens painfully on my arm. What did you do? Mom's eyes widen as the sound grows louder. What did you do? Greta, Edward's face transforms with realization. You called the cops. You called the cops on your own family. The sirens grow louder, unmistakably, heading toward my apartment building. Edward releases me and rushes to the window, yanking back the curtain. We have to go, he says to Mom, panic replacing anger. Now Mom stands frozen, clutching my hairbrush and wallet. But the coordinator, forget him. The police are coming. I straighten my shoulders, finding a calm. That surprises even me. It's too late. They know everything. The fake medical documents, the wire transfers, the organ trafficking scheme, all of it. The wail of sirens stops directly outside my building. Car doors slam, footsteps pound up the exterior stairs. Edward turns to me, his face, a storm of betrayal and fear. For a moment, I see the brother I once built backyard forts with, the one who taught me to throw a baseball on summer afternoons. Then his expression hardens into something unrecognizable. This isn't over, he whispers. Police sirens, wah outside my apartment building, as I back away from Edward, whose face contorts with panic. The pounding of boots on stairs echoes through the hallway. Mother clutches her purse to her chest, eyes darting between me and the door. What have you done? She hies as the door bursts open. Detective Cooper enters, first gun drawn, followed by 3 uniformed officers and a woman in an FBI windbreaker. Police. Everyone stay where you are. Cooper commands, his voice filling the small space of my apartment. Edward bolts toward my bedroom, aiming for the fire escape window. 2 officers intercept him before he makes it halfway across the living room. They wrestle him to the ground as he thrashes and curses. Get off me. This is a family matter, Edward shouts, his face pressed against my beige carpet. Mother collapses onto my sofa, her shoulders heaving with theatrical sobs. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. She wails, tears streaming down her powdered cheeks. We were only trying to save Edward's life. Our son is dying. Detective Cooper holsters his weapon and nods to the FBI agent, who steps forward. She's compact and businesslike, with short, cropped hair and eyes that miss nothing. Marjorie Winters. I'm Special Agent Morales with the FBI Human Trafficking Division. We have a warrant for your arrest. Mother, sobbing, stops abruptly. Human trafficking. That's absurd. This is about saving my son's life. I reach for my laptop and open it. My hands steady despite the chaos around me. Detective Cooper. Here are the emails between my mother and someone called the coordinator. They discuss payment schedules and transportation arrangements to Guatemala for kidney procurement. Cooper takes the laptop, scanning the emails with the FBI agent looking over his shoulder. These match perfectly with the records we subpoenaed from their internet provider. Those are private communications. Mother protests, her voice shrill. You had no right. We had every right with a judge's warrant. Cooper replies calmly, the same judge who signed these arrest warrants. The officers pull Edward to his feet, securing handcuffs around his wrists. His face is flushed with rage, but beneath it I see something else, the trapped expression of a cornered animal. This is ridiculous. Edward Puss. Greta. Tell them this is a misunderstanding. A knock at the door interrupts his plea. Dr. Vance enters, carrying a medical bag and a folder of documents. Her presence brings a wave of relief washing over me. Dr. Patricia Vance. She introduces herself to the officers. I've reviewed all the supposed medical documentation for Edward Winters. I can confirm these are fraudulent records. They contain terminology that no legitimate nephrologist would use and describe symptoms inconsistent with kidney disease. Mother rises from the sofa, her hands trembling. Who are you to question our doctors? You haven't examined Edward. That's exactly the point. Dr. Vance responds. No legitimate doctor has examined Edward for kidney disease because he doesn't have it. I've brought his actual medical records from County General obtained with a court order. His kidneys are perfectly healthy. Edward lunges forward. Despite the handcuffs, his face contorted with rage. I told you she was too smart for this, he shouts at Mother. I told you she'd figure it out. The room falls silent. Mother's face drains of color as she realizes what Edward has just admitted. Agent Morales steps forward, reading from a card. Marjorie Winters, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit human trafficking, attempted kidnapping, fraud, and criminal solicitation. You have the right to remain silent. As the Miranda warning continues, I watch my mother's face. For the first time in my life, I see her without pretense, calculating cold, assessing her options. Even now, Cooper turns to me. Your documentation made this possible. Greta, the thoroughness of your evidence gave us everything we needed for these warrants. The FBI agent handcuffs my mother, who looks at me with fury burning in her eyes. After everything I've sacrificed for this family, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. This is how you repay maternal love. That wasn't love, I reply, my voice. Surprisingly, steady love doesn't sell someone's organs to cover gambling debts as the officers lead them toward the door. Edward makes one last desperate attempt. The loan sharks will kill me if I don't pay. You're sending your own brother to his death. We're aware of your creditors, Mr. Winters. Agent Morales says they're being investigated separately. Your financial problems don't justify trafficking your sister's organs. After they leave, my apartment feels strangely empty. Rachel arrives 20 minutes later, having waited outside during the arrest. She hugs me fiercely. It's over. She says, you did it, not just me. I reply, I couldn't have done this alone. 2 hours later, I sit in an interview room at the police station. My formal statement. Detective Cooper records everything while Dr. Vance sits nearby, occasionally adding medical clarification to my account. The fluorescent lights cast everyone in a harsh glow. But for once, I don't feel exposed. I feel protected based on your evidence and their communications with the so-called coordinator. We've identified him as Miguel Ferrero, a known organ broker operating throughout Central America, Cooper explains. We've been trying to catch him for years. Will they post bail? I ask, my stomach tightening at the thought of them walking free. Not a chance. Cooper says firmly. The judge has already denied bail for both of them. The interstate and international nature of these crimes makes them flight risks. Agent Morales enters the room with a tablet. We just got confirmation. Ferrero was apprehended at the airport trying to leave the country. Your case broke open his entire operation. Relief floods through me so intensely that I have to grip the edge of the table. Were there others like me? But Agent Morales nods grimly. 3 other potential victims identified so far, all approached through family members with financial problems. You didn't just save yourself, Greta. You stopped this from happening to others. Dr. Vance places her hand on my shoulder. Your courage has exposed a criminal operation that's been preying on vulnerable people for years. I think about how close I came to boarding a plane, believing I was saving my brother only to wake up missing a kidney or worse. The thought sends a chill through me despite the warmth of the room. The district attorney will want to meet with you tomorrow. Cooper says your testimony will be crucial, but for tonight you should rest. When I emerge from the station, 3 hours later, Rachel is waiting in her car. The sky has darkened to deep purple, and streetlights glow along the avenue. I've made up the guest room, she says, as I slide into the passenger seat. You shouldn't be alone tonight. I nod, too exhausted to argue. As we drive through the quiet streets, I watch the houses we pass behind each lighted window. Families exist, some loving, some not. The simplicity of this truth strikes me with unexpected force. What happens now? Rachel asks softly. I turn from the window. I rebuild. I figure out what family really means. No, you have a head start on that, she says, gesturing to her phone. Dr. Vance texted. She's organized a support group for families affected by organ trafficking. She thinks you might help others navigate what you've been through. The idea settles in me like a seed finding soil for the first time since this nightmare began. I feel something unexpected bloom in my chest. Not just relief or vindication, but purpose. I'd like that, I say. Watching the city lights blur through tears I didn't realize had formed, I'd like that very much. As Rachel's car turns onto her street, I realize Detective Cooper was right. My methodical documentation, my refusal to ignore inconsistencies, the very qualities my family had always dismissed as fussy and obsessive, had saved me. And now they might save others too. Tomorrow would bring statements and legal proceedings, restraining orders, and reporters. Tonight, in this moment between the nightmare and whatever comes next, I simply breathe, filling my lungs with the certainty that both kidneys will remain exactly where they belong. I sit in the back row of the courtroom watching as the judge denies bail for both Edward and my mother 1 month since their arrest, and the reality still feels surreal. Detective Cooper slides into the seat beside me as the proceedings conclude. They won't hurt anyone else, he says quietly. The kidney trafficking network had 3 other potential victims lined up. Your evidence saved them. Why? My throat tightens. I almost lost my kidney and maybe my life outside the courthouse. A reporter approaches with a microphone. I've grown accustomed to these encounters since the story broke. Local news has painted me as some kind of whistleblower hero, though I never sought that label. Ms. Reynolds, how does it feel knowing you've exposed an international organ trafficking operation? The question hangs in the air as I consider my answer. A month ago, I would have stammered, looking to others for validation. Now I meet her gaze directly. It feels like waking up. I reply, like finally seeing clearly. After years of fog that evening, I unlocked the door to my new apartment across town. The security system chimes softly, a feature I insisted on. The space is still sparsely furnished, but it's mine safe. No one here can manipulate me into surrendering pieces of myself, literally or figuratively. I unpack a box labeled kitchen and arrange mugs on an open shelf. My phone buzzes with a text from Dr. Vance. Conference committee approved your speaking slot for next month. Your perspective matters. The invitation had surprised me. A medical ethics conference wanted to hear from me about patient vulnerability and exploitation. I place my hands flat on the cool countertop, studying myself. The trembling that once plagued me when thinking about my family has subsided that night. I sleep without nightmares for the first time since this ordeal began. When morning light filters through new curtains, I stand at the window watching the sunrise. Paint the sky in gentle oranges and pinks, a new day, a new life. The family that raised me wasn't the family I thought they were. I whisper to the empty room. The words no longer shatter me. 6 months later, I stand at a podium facing a room full of attentive faces. My prepared remarks rest before me, but I barely glance at them. The words flow naturally. Now. Organ trafficking thrives in the shadows of family obligation. I tell the audience the most dangerous predators aren't strangers in dark alleys, but those who know exactly which emotional buttons to push. My voice doesn't waver. The frightened woman who once sat surrounded by falsified medical documents in her parents' living room has transformed into someone I barely recognize. Someone stronger after the presentation. A hospital administrator approaches. Would you consider volunteering with our legitimate kidney donor program survivors? Like you, help potential donors understand both the risks and rewards. The irony isn't lost on me. I find myself nodding. Back at Pearson Financial, Rachel grins as I place a small plaque on my desk. Senior Financial Analyst. The promotion came with a raise and new responsibilities, including helping the firm identify financial red flags in potential fraud cases. Looks good there, she says, perching on the edge of my desk. Almost as good as you looked on that morning show last week. I laugh. That interview was terrifying. You couldn't tell. You looked like you'd been speaking publicly your whole life. My phone rings, the direct line I established for the Organ Trafficking Awareness Network. Rachel gives my shoulder a squeeze before slipping away. Knowing these calls often require privacy, this is Greta. I answer. A nervous voice responds. My name is Karen. The hospital gave me your number. My cousin needs a kidney transplant, and my aunt is pressuring me to donate. Something feels wrong. Once such calls left me emotionally drained. Now I have systems in place, questions to ask, resources to offer, authorities to contact when necessary. I understand completely. I tell her the words, carrying the weight of lived experience. Let's talk through what's happening. 1 year later, I sit in a hospital consultation room beside a woman named Diane. Her hands twist anxiously in her lap as she describes her brother's sudden kidney failure and the family's insistence on traveling to Mexico for the procedure. They say, "I'm selfish for asking questions." She whispers that I don't love my brother. I recognize the tactics immediately. Real family protects you, not exploits you. I tell her, "Let's call Detective Cooper. He can verify if your brother's medical records are legitimate." Later that afternoon, I stand before a small crowd at the launch of the Greta Reynolds Foundation. Dr. Vance beams from the front row as I outline our mission education about organ trafficking, warning signs, support for potential victims, and advocacy for stronger protective legislation. A year ago, I nearly became a victim. I tell them today we've helped identify 12 potential trafficking victims and provided them with resources to protect themselves. The audience applauds as I announce our partnership with 3 major hospital systems to implement screening protocols. A proposed bill incorporating lessons from my case now moves through legislative committees. After the ceremony, Dr. Vance approaches with a glass of sparkling water from patient advocate to human rights champion. She says, "You've created something remarkable here." I think about the phone call I received that morning. Another woman, another family using manipulation, another life potentially saved. Sometimes the most loving thing is recognizing when someone doesn't love you back. I reply, watching attendees mingle around displays, explaining trafficking warning signs, and then using that knowledge to protect others. As I drive home, I pass the exit that would lead to my parents' house. I no longer feel the pull to turn there, no longer question my decision to testify against them. The guilt that once wrapped around my chest like steel bands has dissolved. In its place, purpose, clarity, and finally, peace.